I started teaching people how to do scrapbooking in 2000. And I actually got into the business so that I could make money to pay for my son's wedding. And my business lasted longer than his marriage did. This is my album. I just brought one of my albums to show you. You don't have to be talented or gifted in anything other than the ability to copy someone else's work. So this is just a photo album that I've done, and you can come up and look at it if you'd like to. I have about 40 probably that I've done through the years. This is actually the marriage right here with the pregnancy, so you get to see that. That it did have long enough to have a child with it, so that was good. All right, I want to talk about photos just a little bit. And we're not going to do anything on how to preserve old photos. There are lots of programs out there that you can put on your computer to like take the wrinkles out, to lighten it up, to do all that sort of thing. There are programs out there, and I have used some of those, but that's not what we're going to talk about today. That's a wonderful thing, because when you get a hold of an old photo and it's got a bleep in it or something, you want to preserve that. And photos fall apart. Does anybody know why they start to fall apart?
Mm-mm.
The way they handle it.
What they're printed on, what they're that has something to do with it. If y'all remember, we went through a stage where we had those cameras that shot the picture out. That was the sorriest camera ever made. Those pictures didn't last. They faded with time. So there are two things that hurt your paper, that hurt your photographs. And in working with this museum up here, we have done a lot of archival stuff that I was pretty big on that already, because I know what happens to paper. You've had an old newspaper that you pick it up several years later and it's yellow and it starts to fall apart. There's two things in paper that will destroy a photograph. One is lignin, and that's what turns it yellow, and the other is acid, and that's what makes it crumble with age. So you want to always put your photographs on a page that is acid-free and lignin-free. So you don't want them to be, like years from now, I want my children to be able to pick this album up in 50 years, if they're still around. Well, Nathan Samuel probably won't be, he'll be 90-something. I want this to last, and for my children and grandchildren to be able to look at it and say, this just looks as good as it did the first day I made it. So if you're gonna get a scrapbook and do that sort of thing, preserve them like that, you want to be sure that you find a book that is acid-free and lignin-free. How many of you have an album in your home right now that has pictures in a magnetic, you remember the magnetic albums, If you've got one of those at your house with pictures in it, raise your hand. You want to get those out as quick as you can.
The ones that stick on there?
Yes, the ones that stick on, and then the page that comes down.
I know they're bad.
Okay, I will tell you, if you can't get them out, if you can get the top layer off, dental floss works well to seesaw back and forth and get stuff off. So you can do that, and that will help to release them from that and get them on something safe. Even if you don't put them in a book, if you just put them in, we've got an acid-free, lignin-free sort of box back there that you can put photos in that we used. We've got all of our photos in back there, so they'll be preserved for a long time. I'd love for you to get it in an album somewhere, because you're going to find out that as you get older, this is what you want right here. Where are your photos right now? Where are the last?
On my phone.
Okay, Abby's scrapbook. Okay, all right, here's the answer right here. Where are your pictures now?
On your phone.
On your phone.
Acid-free. I got one acid-free box.
On your phone. Okay, so that's wonderful, and it's great that we can take pictures with our phones and everything. You've got access, quick access, but they get on there and they stay on there. And then they don't come, what happens to your phone? If you lose them, then you've lost them and you don't have that. And you're not gonna really enjoy them. I mean, how many times have you wanted to stand next to somebody and they say, let me show you these pictures of mine? You're like, okay, I'll look one time and then I'm done with that. So you wanna get them in an album. They have done research that people with Alzheimer's will retain their memory longer if they have a photo album to look at of their families. So that's researchable information that you need to know. So if you don't want to like lose your memory quickly, then you need to get your photos out there where you can start enjoying them and see them. And you want to leave the documentation for your family. I mean, it's a history thing. It's an act of love. And I'll tell you, when I told you why I started scrapbooking. I've always sort of done scrapbooks, sort of really crazy ones, you know, that you just had Elmer's glue and all that stuff back then, and you just did what you had. But when I started doing these, one of our sons was he was in some issues in his life, and he was. I made a scrapbook about him because I felt like I needed to remind myself that I love this child and that I wanted to sort of memorialize his history. And so I showed it to him, and he was kind of like, so what? And so one day he got really angry with me, and he jumped in his car to leave because he was so mad, and he slammed it up in the park and he jumped out of the car, and he came back in and he got his album. And he took it and tossed it on the back seat of the car. And I thought, well, that's the end of that album. Because it was back there with all kinds of junk. You know how kids are with their cars. And even some of you, I don't know, kind of messy. Anyway, when he finally came back home, he didn't have a lot of the stuff he left with, but he had that photo album. And I asked him at that point, why was that important to you? And he said, because that album said to me that you loved me when I wasn't very lovable. And so that's a good reason to do it, you know, just because you want your children, your family to know that you care about them, you care about the things they did, and it's going to remind them, you know, when people go through struggles, sometimes they forget the good times. And children need to be reminded that there really were good times, and if it's in a photo album, you can remind them of that. Okay, so let's talk about the photos that you take. You want to get them off your phone, print them, and start. If you're interested in starting a scrapbook, you know, find you the right book with acid-free and lignin-free. Everybody remember that, and go to town with it. And like I have workshops once a month at my house, so you can come and work. You're talking about a room that she's got. I've got a huge room that we've met in many times. It was built to be a scrapbooking room, and so I've got plenty of room. That's right. We used to sit at the dining room table because I didn't have the scrapbooking room. Abby remembers those days when we all tightened up to do that. So you want to start the process somehow. When you look at all your photos, I know Carol has said, I don't even know where to start. Okay, so here's where you start. You start with your most recent photos. Why?
That's the ones you can remember.
Exactly. Exactly. If you start at the very beginning of all of your life, you're going to get bogged down, and because I'll tell you what's going to happen. You're going to look at that and go, oh, y'all remember? You remember when this was done? You know, and you're going to spend a lot of time reminiscing and thinking about those photos. If you do the ones you just finished taking, then your memory's the best about them. You're fresh on who those people are, and you get it done. And then you work backwards. And then you keep up to date, but you continue to work backwards. So you're making progress instead of getting your wheels turning, and you can't get it done. Does that make sense? All right, let's talk a little bit about taking photos. With our phones now, we can just take 1,000,000 photos and we can delete. So do you really need 1,000,000 photos of that table back there of food?
I take
One, if you want to remember what all you had that day to eat, you know, which we're going to be known as the generation that knew what we ate for lunch, you know, because we put it on Facebook all the time. Look at the food we had. I want to know who's there. So you want to think about how you're taking a picture, or you want to take pictures of people.
I'm bad about just buildings and stuff.
Well, if it's a building you really love and you want it somewhere, but if it's like 15 pictures of the same building, you really don't need that. You don't need 15 pictures of your Christmas tree. Because next year you're going to have the same tree with the same ornaments, and you really don't need that. You want people in those pictures with names. All right, so you're going to start writing down on the back of those pictures with a photo safe pencil, not a pen or anything that can disappear, who they are. And you think, oh, I'll remember. No, you won't. What we were just talking, Bob was just saying, who are these people I went to college with? Can't remember what. you know, we don't remember those things anymore. So write it down while it's fresh on your mind, who they are, left to right, whatever you need to spur your memory about them. Maybe something about where the picture was taken. How many of you have photos that you ain't got a clue where you took that photo? Yeah, I do. I do. I say, I think that was when we went on this trip or whatever. So you wanna put little notes on it as to what the photo is about.
Where do you get
And-
the photos, say pencils?
You can get them down at Hobby Lobby. I can
Okay.
get you some too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not trying to sell any products today, but I am still a creative memories consultant. So if you need something, you can go online and order through me, and you can get whatever you need. But I wouldn't tell you we're the only ones out there. Go wherever you want to and feel comfortable. Just be sure it's acid-free, lignin-free.
Do you have those?
Do I have these albums? You can order them online, yes, ma'am. I used to keep stock, but I don't keep it home. I don't have to, because you just go in and order, and it goes straight to you.
How to spell lignin, how to spell it.
Lignon, lignin,
Okay.
or L-A-N-A-N, maybe it's N-A-N. Ma'am?
What does lignin mean?
It is the stuff that's in paper that makes it turn yellow. I guess it's like a chemical or something that's in the paper and it turns.
It's kind of a chemical.
Mhm.
Okay.
So you want it to be free of that. When you use pens, you want to use Pigma pens. And they will last the longest, P-I-G-M-A, Pigma pens. And they sell them at Hobby Lobby and places like that. And you can, I'll tell you though, I just use a black pen most of the time, just a black Pigma pen. Yes, Glenda?
What about writing on a label and sticking it on the back? Is that advisable or not?
If the label is acid-free and lignin-free, yeah.
I don't know if you get those.
And I will tell you too that, like, if you want to put something in your book that is not acid-free and lignin-free, and you've got photos on that page, you can put your photos here, put it over here, because these pages, now I don't know about other scrapbooks, but these pages are made so that those chemicals can't travel through to that. So as long as you've got space between them.
Cause I have a friend that always, so she's very organized with her photographs forever, and she puts labels under the photographs in her albums. Like she typed them up on little things.
Yeah, if you want it to be really neat and everything.
Yeah.
But let me say something about that right here that I feel very strongly about. Number one, we're losing cursive writing, and that bothers me a lot. Number two is don't say anything, Catherine, please. My handwriting is horrible, and she knows that quite well. But it's really special. Like, I love picking up a card that my mama wrote, because it's her handwriting.
Right.
And so you want to not just go to everything on the computer and leave it like that. You want them to see your handwriting. And of course, there's some things that you need to, like, I've got eggs up here, you know, those are stick-on things, stick-on letters. And I don't even use I'm just lazy. I don't use a measure, one of those things, ruler or anything. I just kind of dance them across the page. Oh, that looks fine. So I really want you to look at this book, because if you feel like you can't make a scrapbook, I'm telling you, I am the least creative person in this room. And I feel happy about my scrapbooks. Now, I will say this, that I've got, like, okay, this is real pretty paper right here. It looks good, you know, I think it looks nice. But when my children or my family pick this book up, they don't give a rip about that paper.
Right.
They don't care about that. They're looking for themselves and what I had to say about it. And that's what's the most important thing. So, any questions about the photo stuff, just, you know, take your pictures, do your pictures, write about your pictures, and I hope everybody brought a couple of pictures today. Did you? Okay, if not, you can look at your phone and see, well, I'm sure you have a couple on your phone.
We wrote on the back of them with regular old pen years ago.
Yeah, they did a long time
Do
ago.
we need to do anything about it?
No, just leave it like it is. It's not gonna hurt the picture,
Okay.
but now if you do press down on the picture, you are gonna make an indentation
Oh,
in the
yeah,
picture, so be careful of that, yeah. Yeah, and I'm thankful that they wrote on the backs of pictures back in the
Yeah, I
day.
know.
You know, I've got two pictures hanging in my guest room, and sometimes my granddaughter's boyfriend sleeps in there when he comes to visit. And he says, those people give me the creeps. They're like, you know, Hardy's grandparents or something. Yeah, they're like, they're not bad. They're not bad people. All right, let me see. if you've got old photographs and you're ready to start through that process, I know Carol's coming to the house on the 24th to work on some things. Just bring them all, and the very first step is to start organizing. And, you know, we'll put them in a box and you can organize them however you want to, and then you pull them out and start working on them as you want to do a book. But you want to get everything together that you need, and one of the things you're gonna find when you start organizing is you're gonna have a bunch of them you're gonna need to throw away. Because they're duplicates, or they're, what was I thinking when I took that tree? You know, that picture of that tree, or whatever. So, you know, keep a trash can beside you. I'll have one for you that day, so you can toss stuff in the trash. And you can trim photos, you know, you can trim off stuff that doesn't matter. You can actually trim people out of your photos if they don't belong there anymore. You know, it's like, oh, but that is part of your history, so you need those people in there. So I'm not taking my daughter-in-law out, my ex-daughter-in-law out of the pictures, because she is the mother of my grandchild, and she's part of our history, so there you go. But I had a customer one time that said she said, my husband won't let me trim my pictures. And I said, okay, well, we'll put them all in the book. Now, that's good, because I'll sell more books that way, because you can't make as many pictures on a page. No problem. So somebody was cutting their, you know, trimming their pictures, and I took all of the scraps that they were trimming, and I put them in a Ziploc bag, and I said, take these to Al and ask him what of that would he like to keep. You know, and he's like, that's just a bunch of junk. Well, my point exactly, you know. So you can trim your pictures, and there's all kinds of tools. This is a great tool right here to trim stuff. So, and another little quick trick on, if you've got a paper cutter at home and it gets dull, just put some wax paper in it and do back and forth, and it sharpens it up. So you can do that with your scissors too.
You can do that with aluminum foil too.
You can do it with aluminum foil, yeah, you sure can. Okay.
Using your scissors with
Do what? I'll just cut it with your scissors and sharpen them up for you.
Your paper's.
Okay. Alright, we're gonna talk a little bit about journaling, and that's really what I have more to say about now, because that is so extremely important. Your pictures are great, and you should have them. But if you don't know how to write anything about them, then, you know, you're not really leaving any history behind. You just have a picture up there, and your family won't know who those people are, even if they're aunts and uncles or somebody. You know, if they didn't grow up with them, they don't know them. So journaling is not only good in your scrapbooking with your pictures, but it is good for you. Journaling is good for you. How many of you journal on a regular basis? I do, okay. It is therapeutic, very therapeutic, and there are all kinds of journaling things that you can do. Like, this is my sermon notes journal, and you can buy it already ready to go, and then you just put, you know, who's preaching and what they preach about, anything I want to remember about that sermon. That's just you can get that on Amazon. It's just a cute little thing I love little journaling books. I love anything that's got blank paper in it. Let me just tell you, I have a friend that's the same age as I am. She's actually a little bit older. She was born in February and I was born in September. And she told me when we turned 40, she said, I just am forgetting everything. And you were born in February and I was born in September, same thing. You're Kathy McCoy's age. And anyway, so she says, I can't remember anything anymore. So for her birthday that year, I gave her a blank book. And I said, here's to put your thoughts in. And so she, about a month or two later, I said, well, how's it going with your book? And she said, I can't find my book. That's the way we go, isn't it? Okay, so those blank books that you get, I just love them, and they are great for journaling. You can also do journaling. This is a journaling Bible. And I did one page. It's got a place over here that you can journal, but this Bible was too small print for me. I couldn't read it, so I think, I'm really not good at that, at picture journaling. But let's talk about the different kinds of journaling. First of all, it's like a self-care thing, and it's a historical thing. So you want to do it for those reasons. You can keep a daily record of your personal events. I kind of do that on a calendar. Hardy does it. He'll say when his doctor's appointments are, if he had to go pick up the son at jail or anything like that, it's all down there. Everything. And so you can keep it like that, and that way you can go back, and we keep the journals. We can go back. I can go back to 1971 when I was at TIFT. No, 1968 I think, when I was started at TIFT, and I have all my calendars from them with all my life in it. So that's one way to journal, just to get down what you're doing. You know, it's really important to know that, because one day you'll go, you know, when did that happen? I think I can go back through my calendars and find out when that happened. It's a good
You might
thing.
need an alibi one day.
Do what?
You might need
You might need an alibi, that's right.
What are you doing on September the 23rd?
I did not do that. I promise I did not do that.
He more of a tattletale than
I really wasn't
I know what I was
Yeah.
thinking.
Okay, journaling helps to improve your memory. So you want a scrapbook and you want a journal, because it helps you as you're thinking of what you did that day. Like, can you remember, who remembers what they ate for supper last night? Y'all do? Okay, I don't have a clue. So, I mean, I don't write that in my calendar, what I ate, because I really don't care about that, but some people do keep like a food journal. That's one of the things you can do. But do whatever you're gonna do on a daily or weekly basis. And if it's something you would like to start, but you just don't have the
Inclination.
or the discipline to
Yeah,
do it, then,
definitely.
just say, I'm just gonna journal one day a week. And just write down how you feel that day, or whatever's going on in your life that day. So you can do bullet journaling, which is a lot of what you do in a scrapbook. It's like when, where, how, and why. All of that is yep, there you go.
Okay.
Yep,
In my phone, I do that too.
yeah, you can keep it on your phone.
Every day. You
As
see
long as you don't
everything.
lose your phone, you got it down there. Yeah.
Put it on the iPad.
I keep it in my phone and on a
Yeah,
paper
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
I'm a real pencil and paper
I'm
person.
a calendar, phone too.
Okay, so bullet journaling is just for that, just little things like this. We were at the Conley Building in Forsyth, Georgia. We had a class on journaling and card making, and these are the people that were there, and list them. That's just boom, 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 bullet journaling. And then you can do reflective journaling. Now that's just like, reflecting on yourself, and sometimes that's not a lot of fun. It's like looking at yourself in the mirror and you go, I don't particularly like how I acted that day or how I handled that or whatever. So reflective journaling is really good, and it starts to dig deep into your spiritual life, I think. Then there's art journaling, like we looked at in the Bible, and there are those of you who are doodlers and love that kind of thing. My doodles look like mud. It's just like, I don't want to doodle because it doesn't look good. It's not pretty. But that's a great way to express yourself, is through art. And Sharon is, she's journaling her life in cards, and I think that's a wonderful thing. Then, like we said, their daily journaling. Listen to this now. These are some benefits from it. It lowers your blood pressure. It boosts your immune system and boosts your memory. Now, that's a good enough reason to start it right there. Good enough reason. All right, so getting started with it. Does everybody have a space in their house that's their space? That may be your whole house, but like I have a chair that's my space, yeah. And you go to that space, and that's where you do your stuff. So you need a place, just like you need a place for your cards, you need a place to scrapbook, you need a place to journal. And it needs to be comfortable, good lighting, good air, sunshine coming in. If you're a person that likes to keep your shades pulled all the time, you may be a depressed person. So you might want to open your shades and get some sunshine in. That helps your feelings a whole lot. You need a notebook and supplies, a pen, and you can do colored pens and different things in different colors, and I like to do that. And any kind of notebook. This little notebook a friend gave me when we first started going to the church we're at now, and I've used it for my Bible study stuff, and I've made my notes in it for today, and it says, "For I know the plans I have for you," in Jeremiah 29:11. Yeah. So this, just any little book will do. Hopefully this will be a little book y'all can use too. Use a quote or scripture to kind of get you started. It might be that you've read something that morning that you want to really grasp and to start, well, what do I think about that scripture, or what do I think about that quote? I saw a quote last night on journaling. Let's see, what did they say? Make lists. You're going to make a list of stuff in your journal. And the list is all of the people who did me wrong. A list of, it was like, funny, did you wrong. All the people who did me wrong. That's not a list I want to start. but it was a whole list of funny stuff, like all the men I said no to, or I don't know. That'd be fun. So make a list of the things you're thankful for. That's a good way to start. What are you thankful for today? I've seen this thing on Facebook. If you got tomorrow all of the things that you thank God for today, what would you have? Sometimes not much at all. Yeah. So, okay, so you want to reflect on your life, and that might mean going back to childhood, it might mean going back to yesterday, it might mean going back to 10 minutes ago. So looking at your life and sort of saying, where are you, or are you accomplishing the things you wanted to accomplish in life? Do you feel like you've been purposeful and successful in what you've done? Do you feel like you've impacted people for the best? Or do you feel like you've been a total failure? You know, there's a time when I felt like I was a total failure, especially as a parent. And I even had a friend who told me, yes, if I was a better parent, my son wouldn't be in this trouble.
You gotta be kidding.
No, I'm not kidding.
They must not have kids.
She wasn't a very good friend.
She was on the
She just had not had her daughter to give problems yet.
Oh, right.
That's terrible.
Okay, so you might want, when you're reflecting on your life, break it down into categories. You know, I'm gonna talk about from the time I was 0 to 5 years of age, or I want to think about the time that I was at college, or I want to think about the day of my wedding, or the day my child was born, or the day we brought our children home. However you wanted to break it down, and then talk about those. And then you want to challenge yourself with your journaling. You know, what are some things you would like to accomplish that you don't feel like you've accomplished yet? And challenge yourself in your thinking. You know, have I been thinking about this wrong? Am I at fault here? Do I need to look at the way God said it instead of the way I feel like it ought to be? That's very, very eye-opening too. And ask if questions. This is an interesting thing. If such and such had happened, if I had gone, our church is commissioning summer missionaries with Baptists today, and I'm on the welcome team out there, so I worked there this morning before I came here. And we were talking, I told, I was a Presbyterian, raised a Presbyterian, but I came to a Baptist college, and when we did summer missions here, I signed up to be a summer missionary. I applied for it, and guess what? They turned me down. Because I was a Presbyterian. Right.
That's terrible.
And I was telling Gabe this morning, our youth pastor, I said that, you know, I feel like they really missed the opportunity with me. You know? I could have been a good missionary. But I was thinking, you know, what if I had done that? I don't know that I would be where I am today. I'm pretty sure I wouldn't. I think I'd be in Africa, you know, working that, because that was my sort of my goal. So what if questions? What if I hadn't done this, or what if I had done that? What if I hadn't gone to Tift College?
Right.
Oh my. You know, that would just have been a horrible thing. Horrible thing. I probably would have never known it was horrible, but it would have been. Okay, illustrated journaling is different from art because you tell a picture. It's kind of like comedy, like the little comic strips, you know. That's illustrated art. You want to, you know, here's what happened, here's the next thing that happened, here's the next thing that happened. They would just be stick figures that don't even look like stick figures. Stream of consciousness kind of journaling. Just whatever you're thinking about, just let it flow. You know, just let it flow. And it's kind of amazing when you start doing that some stuff comes out that you were just like, oh, I didn't know I had that inside me. Pretty bad. And then gratitude journaling, we talked about that. Travel journaling. Some of you have done a lot of traveling through the years, and you might want to journal about that. And the best time to do it, though, is while you're traveling, because you're going to get home and go, I don't remember what was the name of that or whatever. So journal about your travels. That's a fun thing to do. Nature journaling. You know, just going out in nature and journaling about what you see of God's creation. Just putting it down, you know, and it makes you more appreciative when you see things that you didn't really see. We went to, would have never seen before. We went to Alaska, and we took a helicopter flight up onto the ice field that feeds the glaciers. And it's all ice. Everywhere you could see was ice. And we landed on this little platform, a rock, and in the middle of all that ice was a little purple flower. And I took a picture of that purple flower, and it means a lot to me because it's like in all of this ice, God still brought forth this little purple flower. I just thought that was amazing. And then a food journal, and I don't think many of us would have a hard time doing a food journal, except I just can't remember what I ate. And then this is one that I have found to be very helpful for me, is third person journaling. And that's when you may have something that's very painful in your life, and you just can't put yourself in that place again. You would tell the story because it's good to get that out, but as if it's happening to a third person. And that probably one of the points of my life when I was really struggling with something that had happened to me. that was the thing that was the breakthrough for me. I was able to get it out, sort of vomit it out, and that's what you do sometimes in journaling. And it was like it didn't have to happen to me again. It was happening to this person over here. So that's another way to journal too, of bad things or even good things, you know. So, all right, now we're going to do a little, because you have a journal book or some paper in front of you. Did you get one?
He needs a journal.
I'll take up with you.
Oh, you need a
that day.
journal, don't you?
Oh, I don't have one. Do we need one of those?
Oh, Carol.
Do we need one? I don't have one of those.
You didn't, oh, I'm sorry. I
That's
didn't have
okay.
the tens.
That's fine.
Write on your
No.
paper. You want some paper to write?
No.
You want to write in the back of my journal?
I'm good.
I said, here's notes in the back of my journal. That'd be a memory. You know?
I'm good.
There's some blank paper.
Oh, I'm good. I have this.
All right, if you got pictures to look at, I wanted you to bring those. Hopefully they're pictures that mean a lot to you. Everybody, let's just go around the room. Who all brought pictures? All right, Abby, you start and just tell us about your picture, a little bit about your picture. Show it to us.
Yeah, well, my daughter was looking through some pictures from my in-laws' house, and this is our wedding picture with my family, with most of my siblings, and even my brother's wife. But anyhow, it was on the table, so I was like, oh, I'll just grab that, because it's there. And then the other one that my daughter had pulled out was of her and her cousin and her grandfather, my father-in-law, on the swing. And she said, oh, I remember that, that was so fun. So that's why I brought
There you
those.
go.
They were out.
Pam, did you bring
I
one?
just brought my niece and my great niece. Aren't they beautiful?
Isn't she a proud
I
aunt?
am.
Carol, did you bring one?
I did. This is my newest great niece. Her name is Mackenzie, and she's turned around looking at me in delight.
She's going, Aunt Carol.
Letty?
I brought my mother's mother and father. This is the only picture made of both of them together. And I found it recently and just gave a copy on Easter to several of they had 11 children together. And 5 still living. So I made a copy for each one.
Yeah, that's a wonderful gift. Glenda, did you bring one? Myra, did you bring one? Catherine? Vicki, did you bring one?
Yes. Well, I'm the queen of being unorganized, and as I'm going through my life in my house, digging through boxes and everything, I have the picture drawer that I will one day organize, okay? But anyway, I went in there very quickly this morning, because I almost forgot. But anyway, I just grabbed some that I found that my mother-in-law had given me of my son. And it was, well, I didn't bring, these are just of Jake, when he was, I would say, maybe 2, I'm not sure.
It's not
And
on
there
the
were
picture,
some
is it?
others with it. He has a cousin who's just a few months older, and she would keep them in the summertime. So she had a lot of them together, but I just brought them. But I'm into this thing now that I finally have a grandchild, and I think this is gonna be the only one that I have, one son, one grandchild. And I'm beginning to see him in her. I'm always saying that expression right there, that's Jake. So I was looking at these when I picked them up, especially that one. I said, that's Kyrie. You know, and I'm pulling these out. I want to show these to Jake's wife. And then when Kyrie gets older, look, you can see yourself in your daddy's expressions when he was little. So. But I need a lot of work. I could spend the rest of my life trying to organize people.
Carrie, did you bring some?
Yeah, I did. This is one I just loved. It's my 2 children, Cindy and Richard, and Richard's holding his son, and Cindy is holding her grandchildren.
Oh, wow.
And so they're 2 of my great-grandchildren and my grandson, and they're all the same age.
Oh, wow.
And it's one of my favorite ones. They're sitting on the same laughing. Yeah,
That's a great picture.
yeah, it is a great picture.
Did you just bring one?
No, I brought another one. This is my son's daughter, Mary Riles, and he adopted her, but then his first wife died. And his second wife, the little boy, he never thought he'd have a child of his own. A birth from, she is his child.
Sure. Bird
thi-
child, yeah.
and this one I just found in the drawer. It's Mary Riles, the same girl. And she was at my house over Easter. And going up the stairs, I have all kinds of pictures. She said, "Grandmother, my picture is not there."
Oh, my goodness.
But there was a teeny one, but she didn't see it. It was too high up. And so I thought, I'm gonna have to put Mary Riles in it. And then I just found this one when I was looking. This is Lamar when he's playing golf in the snow. And I thought it was cute. And it was just in the drawer. And then this was the same snow with the camellia that I just thought was.
But it's not a Bessie Tiff camellia, is it?
No, it's not. I don't have a Bessie Tiff
I
camellia.
know.
We're hoping in 2 years we'll have some.
Okay.
I did, over Christmas, I adopted a woman, I'm a stepmother, I've never had any children of my own. So I adopted this woman who became my friend 20 years ago. And so this is her and me fixing to go to the courthouse.
Oh,
Okay,
You adopted her?
I did.
Okay.
So when I adopted her,
You got
a whole family.
bonus, yeah.
And here's my whole family.
Aw, look at you.
Oh, wow, that's great.
Hey.
And so they've always, like over in Iowa, they've always said, "That's my adopted mama," or "That's my adopted grandmama." And so now they can actually say, "That's my grandmother."
Yes.
They are. And Lachelle, she goes, this is her husband doing. She goes, no, really, Miss P is really my grandmother. And he goes, "Yes, Lachelle, she's your real grandmother." And they're just like beside themselves. Anyway, Vicki and I did this, and then we presented it at Christmas to the family, and I made all of them a book. I made them all this book right here, and I wrote about, this is my stepchildren. These are my stepchildren. And then to let them know that I'm doing this, and I love them, I still love them, but this is for her and for me. And her mother passed away years ago too, so. And then this is to Vicki and Domer, her husband. And then these are the girls, these are my grandgirls. And then this is the whole family. And I wrote each of them a little letter. And then she was 4 months pregnant at that time. So I have another grandbaby that's not in that photograph. And I wrote each of them something. This is one of the first photographs we took of each other, as a family. This is like 20 years ago. And then this was on one of them's birthday. And then here's the judge, here's our lawyer, here's the court, and then here it says, "It is so ordered that Barbara Seymour Pidolato will be Vicki Marie Watt's mother." Okay, so it is so ordered. I'm sorry I took so long.
No,
I just got chills.
Zero. Do you have some?
This is my husband's grandmother and her parents and all her siblings.
No way.
Oh my God.
14 of them.
Wow.
Whoa. Your grandparents and their children, and their siblings?
This lady right here is my husband's grandmother. This is her parents. So that's his great-grandparents.
Right.
And then all the siblings.
What city?
And I have a list with all their names.
That's awesome.
And I actually have this one was one of the aunts wrote the list for me one day after we got this picture, because I could recognize some of them because I met all of them from the time I met him before they all passed away. I did have the opportunity to meet all of them but one who passed away when she was 16.
Wow.
So, except for the grandparents, I did not meet the great-grandparents.
Do you know what year it was taken?
Yeah, somewhere at home. I think on my other list it tells me when it was taken.
Was it in Loganville? Is he from Loganville?
No, he's from Monticello.
Oh, Monticello.
But most of these are actually from the Jones County, like Gray area. But anyway, so I did have one of the aunts that actually sat down with me one day, and I would say, "This is so and so and so," and if I didn't know somebody, she'd tell me. So we got it all on a list, and I have a better list at home that tells me who they
I may
are.
be kin to your husband. They're great.
Really?
My granddaddy was born in Macon, and his great-great-granddaddy built 2 houses in Gray, and one of them still stands, so yeah, that's exciting. See, now, we've learned a lot about each other, just sitting here doing this. Having a scrapbooking workshop is kind of like a therapeutic time where you can all learn about each other, and I mean, it really is a good thing to do. So don't just do it by yourself. Get together with friends, and then you share stories and tell stuff about, it brings up memories, and if somebody says something, it brings up another memory. Did you have a picture?
I did.
I want you to show your picture. I forgot about that.
I did. I'm trying to think. Hold on, I'm all prepared. Mine are probably more recent.
That's okay.
For me, I have every picture that's on my phone made into a hard copy because I'm afraid I'd lose my phone.
Yep.
So I always make hard copies. And this was me and my sweet Carol this year when we were given the Cornerstone Award. And this, I have all, Lisa McNair and I have always shared a special bond, and she's just so precious to me. And so I brought her.
That's really fancy, Right.
Tammy Wynette.
She really bought it because of Elvis.
That's right.
Yes, we both have an affinity for Elvis.
Okay, what I want you to do now, all the stuff you just told us, and we learned a lot. Y'all know a lot about these photographs, and it's interesting stories, and when your family picks it up and you tell what you just told me, that's gonna be pretty exciting. I love that you've got that in a book for them, and they're gonna all get to see it.
Each of them gave, I
Yeah,
gave each of them one.
that's great.
And I
That's
gave them
fantastic.
each a picture of the family and of their family.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they have it as a magnet, it's on their refrigerator.
My mother and I sat down and did a digital book of her family. She was the baby of 12, and we sat down and did a 2-page spread of each family member, and kept, who was born, who had died, all of that, and then gave each one of them, to each one of the siblings one for a birthday. My time sitting with my mama, we weren't scrapbooking like this, we were doing it on a computer, picking out the paper and everything. That 2 weeks that we spent together was precious to me. Because she would be reminded of, oh, let me tell you about this, and I didn't remember about that, and so it was just a wonderful time. It is a great thing to do. It's kind of like what I would liken it to the old-fashioned quilting bee, when you get together and do stuff like this, because it's you accomplish something, and you feel good about it, and you have a good time with everybody. You get to fellowship, and a lot of times we'll cry together and we'll pray together, and all kinds of things come up that you get to talk about. So. I want you to take your photos, and if those of you who didn't bring one, think of a photograph that you have that you really like a lot, and I want you to journal using any of these methods that we talked about that photo. And I'm going to give you about, how much time do we have? Maybe five minutes, will that do? Okay, it's 2:05, so at 2:10, stop. You can